Before you decide whether somebody belongs in your future, ask a question romance usually avoids. When this person influences my decisions, my habits, and my priorities, where does my life go? Very important. Do not ask only, how do I feel when they enter the room? Ask, who am I becoming because they entered my life? Feelings can tell you that somebody is attractive. Feelings cannot tell you whether that person is safe to follow into a future. Here is the common sequence. Attraction arrives, exclusivity follows, promises begin, then discovery comes last. 6 months later, somebody says, I did not know you believed that. I did not know you handled money that way. I did not know anger did that to you. Of course you did not know. You committed before you studied. Wisdom changes the order. Observation, friendship, tested trust, informed commitment. Everybody say knowledge before covenant. Influence is the power to affect direction and rearrange priorities. When somebody can change how you use your time, whom you listen to, what standards you protect, and which dreams you pursue, that person has influence. And closeness is never neutral. You are always being shaped. Time is life measured out. So when you repeatedly give someone your time, you are not merely sharing conversations. You are allowing their values, habits, and vision to participate in the construction of your life. That is why choosing a close relationship is serious. You may enjoy their company while their influence quietly redirects your destiny. Write this principle down. Attraction may introduce a person, but tested friendship reveals whether that person can share a destination. Tested friendship produces evidence. Does the relationship strengthen your direction? Can it survive honesty? Does each person serve without controlling? What happens during conflict? Who accepts responsibility when something fails? And are both people prepared for covenant, not merely excited about a ceremony? We will examine all 6 because marriage is too consequential to be built on guesses. This is not an attack on emotion. Emotion is a gift. Attraction is not the enemy. The danger begins when emotion is promoted beyond its qualifications and allowed to make a lifelong decision before knowledge arrives. So stop asking merely, does this relationship feel good? Ask, does its influence produce a future worth choosing? But before you investigate the other person, there is an earlier examination. Are you entering this relationship as a whole person, ready to share, or as an unmet demand, waiting for somebody else to fill it? Write this down. Marriage does not manufacture identity. It reveals the identity you already brought into it. Some people enter relationships saying, I love you, but underneath those words is another sentence, please prove that I matter. That is not always devotion. Sometimes dependency has learned romantic vocabulary. Wholeness does not mean perfection. It means you are becoming responsible for your own life. Physically, you manage your habits and obligations. Emotionally, you can experience loneliness, disappointment, or disagreement without collapsing or punishing somebody. Spiritually, your convictions do not change every time affection enters the room. Intellectually, you continue learning, thinking, and developing rather than expecting another person to become your entire world. Everybody say, whole enough to share. Why is this important? Because what you are is what you bring. If you bring insecurity, marriage does not bury it. Intimacy gives it a microphone. If you bring irresponsibility, a wedding does not correct it. Shared life gives it bills. If you bring confusion about your purpose, marriage does not automatically provide direction. Now 2 people may be wandering together. Watch this. There are 3 different desires that people confuse with love. The first is the desire to be needed. You keep rescuing somebody because their dependence makes you feel valuable. The second is the desire to be admired. You perform strength, success, spirituality, or beauty because applause protects you from being examined. But the third is the desire to be genuinely known. That requires truth. It says, here is what I can contribute. Here is where I am still growing. Here is who I am when the performance ends. Think about the person who sends messages all day and becomes offended if the reply takes 20 minutes. Where are you? Who are you with? Why did you read it and not answer? They call it closeness. No, closeness is not surveillance. Jealousy is not proof of value. Constant rescuing is not always service. Insecurity can dress itself like affection and then slowly become control. So examine yourself before you examine your candidate. Am I choosing from clarity or am I afraid of being alone? Am I responding to purpose or to pressure from family and friends? Do I truly value this person or am I trying to repair wounded pride? Do I want partnership or validation? Here is the standard. Two people should bring lives they can responsibly share, not empty identities they expect each other to supply. You do not enter partnership demanding, make me somebody. You enter saying, I know whose I am growing into who I was created to be, and I have something responsible to contribute. Once your identity is no longer for sale, you can evaluate another person without desperation negotiating the price. Then discernment can begin its first external test. Are these two lives actually traveling in compatible directions? Here is the principle. Before two people choose a destination together, they must discover the direction in which each life is already moving. Everybody say direction before destination. Why? Because life is built out of time. You do not store yesterday and spend it again tomorrow. Once an hour is given, that portion of your life is gone. So when you spend time with someone, you are doing more than enjoying their presence. You are allowing their priorities, patterns, and convictions to participate in your future. Now, shared direction does not mean identical everything. Please understand that. You do not need the same profession, personality, hobbies, or talents. One may teach while the other builds a business. One may be expressive while the other is quiet. Difference can produce strength, but difference in function is not the same as conflict in purpose. You must examine 5 things. First, purpose. What does this person believe life is for? Service, status, contribution, comfort. You cannot build a united future when one person wants to fulfill an assignment and the other wants only to avoid inconvenience. Second, motivation. Why do they work? Why do they pursue success? Why do they want marriage? Two people may desire the same house, but for different reasons. One sees a place of stewardship, the other sees a symbol to impress everybody who doubted them. Same house, different spirit. Third, interests. Interests reveal where attention repeatedly goes. Somebody says, I value growth, but every free hour goes somewhere else. Do not argue with the calendar. Time is an honest witness. Fourth, dreams. Do not merely ask what somebody dreams about. Ask what the dream demands. Further study may require patience. A calling may require relocation. Building something meaningful may require financial restraint, long hours, or an unusual season of sacrifice. It is easy to admire a dream when it is a speech. Can you support it when it becomes a schedule and a budget? Fifth, personality. Charm during agreement proves almost nothing. Watch what happens when the person is delayed, corrected, disappointed, or denied control. If every disagreement produces anger, contempt, or punishment, you do not have a personality difference. You have a cooperation problem. Think about it. Two people can enjoy the same music, laugh at the same comedy, and order the same food, yet disagree about faith, money, work, children, and responsibility. They call that compatibility because both enjoy Friday night. But marriage includes Monday morning. Another couple may have different careers and different temperaments, yet both value discipline, service, integrity, and long-term purpose. Their surfaces differ, but their lives travel in compatible directions. So take this inventory. What is this person building? What repeatedly receives their time? Do their habits support the future they describe? Can your two destinations coexist? Or must one person shrink until they disappear? Cosmetic compatibility gives you pleasant moments. Directional compatibility gives two distinct people the possibility of building one future. But direction only identifies who may be worth knowing more deeply. Wisdom still refuses to jump from interest to intimacy. Knowledge must be earned, and healthy relationships earn it in stages. Healthy relationships grow through stages. I want you to picture 4 gates. Every gate permits greater access, but access should follow evidence. You do not hand somebody the keys to the whole building because they smile at you in the parking lot. Everybody say, access follows evidence. The first gate is acquaintance. At this level, the governing question is, do I respect this person? You learn the broad outline of their life. You listen. You show sincere concern. You may ask about their work, family, well-being, or hopes, but kindness does not create ownership. A meaningful conversation does not entitle you to their private history, constant attention, or emotional loyalty. Somebody spoke to you twice, and now you are announcing, God has revealed my spouse. Slow down. Perhaps God revealed a polite human being. You do not need an engagement announcement. You need another conversation. The second gate is casual friendship. Now the question becomes, do I understand this person? Repeated interaction allows you to observe interests, strengths, hopes, and ordinary concerns. What do they enjoy? What can they contribute? What problems occupy their attention? What future do they describe? This stage is healthier in visible community in groups, service, work, church, study, and normal life. Why? Because isolation can create an artificial atmosphere. Anybody can perform during a carefully arranged evening. Community lets you observe how they treat people they are not trying to impress. The third gate is close friendship. Here the question is, can I trust this person? This stage examines life goals, values, worldview, mutual relationships, and cooperation. You work on real tasks. You encounter inconvenience. You discover whether promises become action. Close friendship also tests whether each person protects the other's convictions. If you value integrity, does this person strengthen it or negotiate against it? If you are committed to discipline, do they encourage it or mock it? A true friend does not ask you to betray your standards as proof of affection. Then comes the fourth gate, intentional courtship. Now the possibility of marriage is named clearly, and the governing question is, can we responsibly choose a future together? This is not the stage for pretending the decision has already been made. It is the stage for investigating purpose, history, faith, money, family expectations, conflict, sacrifice, and consequences. Write this down. Courtship is not a ceremony waiting to happen. It is a question being responsibly answered. These gates are not manipulation. They are not a rigid timetable. And reaching one gate does not guarantee entry through the next. The purpose is simple. Match the depth of access with the strength of evidence. Premature labels are dangerous because labels create pressure. Once you announce, this is my person, pride may force you to defend what wisdom is still trying to examine. You stop learning because you are busy protecting the announcement. So remember the 4 questions. Do I respect this person? Do I understand this person? Can I trust this person? Can we responsibly choose a future together? That is the map. It slows emotional escalation while allowing genuine knowledge to grow. But the gates only describe how closeness develops. The next issue goes deeper. What must close friendship actually prove before romance is allowed to interpret it? Here is the principle. A friend is not merely someone who enjoys your presence. A friend is someone whose influence helps you become more faithful to your purpose. Everybody say, friendship adds value. Now, do not confuse shared interests with shared values. Shared interests create conversation. Shared values govern decisions. 2 people can enjoy the same food, music, sports, and travel, but when decisions arise about faith, sexuality, money, work, honesty, and boundaries, their agreement disappears. Interests determine what you may enjoy together. Values determine what you can build together. Very important. A trustworthy friend protects what you consider sacred. If you value sexual integrity, they do not use affection to pressure you beyond your convictions. If you value honest work, they do not invite you into dishonest gain. If you value financial discipline, they do not ridicule restraint and call recklessness living. Love does not demand that you violate your principles to prove your loyalty. Watch this. Affection that weakens your convictions is not preparing you for covenant. It is training you for compromise. But shared values must become visible through service. Words are easy. Service asks different questions. Does this person notice a genuine problem? Do they offer appropriate help? Can they contribute their strengths without controlling the outcome? Can they celebrate your progress without making themselves the hero of your story? Suppose you plan a community event together, complete a course, organize a family responsibility, or manage a small budget. Suddenly, personality comes out of hiding. Who arrives prepared? Who remembers the commitment? Who takes initiative? Who adjusts when the plan changes? Who respects other people's ideas? A 2-hour project can reveal more than 20 romantic dinners because cooperation forces character into the room. Somebody says, but they bought me an expensive gift. Wonderful. Can they keep a simple promise? They took me on a beautiful trip. Excellent. Can they complete an ordinary responsibility without being chased? Never let spectacle distract you from structure. Now be careful with rescue-based intimacy. Some people become close because one person is always in crisis and the other person enjoys being indispensable. Every week there is another emergency, another loan, another midnight call, another problem only you can solve. You begin to feel essential, so you call it love. But healthy service does not make another adult permanently helpless. Healthy service strengthens responsibility. It helps a person stand, learn, contribute, and continue growing. If your assistance always increases their dependence on you, you may be feeding your own need to be needed. So inspect the relationship. Does each person contribute? Can both give and receive without entitlement? Does help produce gratitude and growth? Are both lives moving toward purpose? Or is one life continually consuming the time, energy, money, and attention of the other? Write this down. A marriage-capable relationship must do more than generate affection. It must protect values and multiply responsible purpose. That is how love-producing behavior appears not only in declarations or gifts, but in ordinary service, protected convictions, and reciprocal growth. Service reveals generosity, while life is cooperative. But the deeper evidence comes when truth threatens comfort, correction replaces applause, and disagreement interrupts the atmosphere. Here is the contradiction. Flattery can preserve attraction, but honest correction protects a future. Everybody say, truth protects the future. A person who praises everything you do may help you feel comfortable, but comfort alone cannot prepare you for covenant. A trustworthy friend must be able to say, what you did was not consistent with what you claim to value. Notice the difference. Healthy correction addresses conduct. It does not destroy identity. It seeks improvement, not superiority. And the person offering correction must remain accountable to the same standard. So the test has two sides. Can you speak truth without becoming cruel? And can you receive truth without retaliation? Suppose somebody says, you promised to arrive at 7, but you came at 8 and never called. Immaturity answers, you are always complaining. Besides, you were late last month. Watch what happened. The issue was a broken promise, but defensiveness moved the courtroom, changed the charge, and put the injured person on trial. Maturity responds differently. You are right. I gave my word and my failure affected you. I should have communicated. Here is what I will change. That response does not merely apologize. It repairs. Very important. An apology without changed behavior is often only an attempt to end an uncomfortable conversation. Now this goes deeper. When you become close to someone, you are not meeting a person without a past. You are encountering a history that is still producing habits, expectations, fears, and reactions. Family patterns enter relationships. Previous relationships enter them. Losses, debts, coping mechanisms, unresolved wounds, and old decisions may all affect the future, even when nobody mentioned them during the pleasant stage. History is not dead information. History becomes active whenever present pressure touches an old wound. This does not justify interrogation. Acquaintances are not entitled to your private archive. Disclosure should grow as trust grows. But neither does wisdom permit secrecy about facts that could materially affect another person's decision. As courtship becomes intentional, truth must become sufficient for informed commitment. You should not have to discover essential history by accident after your life is already joined to it. Being genuinely known means allowing someone to see more than the polished identity designed to secure admiration. It means revealing strengths without pretending you have no limitations, admitting mistakes without decorating them, and acknowledging present patterns that still require growth. It also means creating an atmosphere where honesty is not punished. So ask the questions. What happens when this person is corrected? Do they listen or do they intimidate? Do they withdraw affection to regain control? Do apologies produce new behavior? Are difficult facts volunteered responsibly or uncovered accidentally? Does truth make the relationship safer, or does truth produce punishment? And examine yourself under the same light. Can people tell you the truth without paying an emotional price for it? A friendship ready to carry marriage must make honesty safer than performance and correction more valuable than flattery. Conversation, however, can reveal only so much. Character is finally verified through behavior under pressure. When plans fail, convenience disappears, and responsibility becomes costly. Here is the principle. Character is not what a person promises when conditions are perfect. Character is what remains consistent when conditions become unpleasant. Everybody say, pressure reveals patterns. Romantic performance can be staged. Reservations can be made. Flowers can be delivered. Clothing can be selected. Everybody smells wonderful for 3 hours. But ordinary life does not remain under romantic lighting. Eventually the plan changes. The money becomes limited. Somebody gets tired, and dinner burns. Then you begin to meet the person behind the presentation. Watch 4 environments carefully. First, waiting. What happens when the flight is delayed, the restaurant is crowded, or another person needs more time? Patience is easy when nothing interferes with your schedule. Delay reveals whether inconvenience produces grace or hostility. Second, service without applause. Will this person help when nobody is watching, posting, or praising? Some people do not serve. They perform generosity. If the camera disappears, so does their compassion. Third, limited money. A person's values become visible when resources cannot satisfy every desire. Do they plan, communicate, and honor obligations? Or do they hide purchases, ignore bills, and spend recklessly to maintain an image? An expensive evening may demonstrate planning. Financial honesty over time demonstrates character. Fourth, interruption. What happens when your legitimate need disturbs their convenience? Can they adjust without making you feel guilty for existing? Covenant will contain interruptions. Children interrupt. Illness interrupts. Work changes interrupt. Life does not request an appointment before becoming difficult. Very important. Dramatic gestures impress the senses, but repeated responsibility protects a future. Punctuality, work ethic, honest money management, small promises kept. These things are not glamorous, but neither is repairing the same preventable damage for 30 years. Disappointment also exposes entitlement. Tell a person no, correct a mistake, change a plan, then observe. Do they insult you, punish you with silence, evade responsibility, or become reckless because they were denied immediate satisfaction? A person who must always get their way is not prepared to build a shared way. Before advancing the relationship, do not study only the reward you desire. Study the consequences of the habits you already see. Ask what repeated lateness becomes after 10 years. What repeated dishonesty becomes. What uncontrolled spending becomes. What contempt becomes. A wedding does not erase patterns. Shared life gives them a larger operating space. Now, nobody is perfect. The question is not whether someone has ever failed. Ask whether they learn from failure. Do they accept consequences? Do they change? Or does every story end with somebody else receiving the blame? And please do not use this teaching as a weapon. Turn the mirror around. What does your character reveal when you are tired, financially pressured, frustrated, corrected, or disappointed? Are you demanding evidence from another person that you refuse to produce yourself? Do not manufacture hardship or play cruel little games to test people. Life already provides enough pressure. Pay attention to ordinary reality. Reliable character is not announced. It is observed repeatedly. And when direction, service, truth, and character have produced sufficient evidence, the relationship may enter intentional courtship. But courtship must study consequences, not merely plan a ceremony. Courtship is not the celebration of a decision attraction already made. Courtship is the disciplined process through which two people gather enough truth to make that decision responsibly. Everybody say, investigate before you integrate. Marriage affects time, money, family work, faith, health, and future generations. Therefore, Nobody should be pressured into a lifelong commitment without enough information to understand its responsibilities and foreseeable consequences. A wedding is one day. The decision produces a life. Courtship must include 6 serious conversations. First, spiritual conviction. Do not ask only, do you believe? Ask, what does your belief govern? Does faith shape conduct, boundaries, money, forgiveness, and decisions? Spiritual language is easy to borrow. Conviction becomes visible when obedience costs something. Second, purpose and work. What assignment is each person pursuing? Does it require education, relocation, travel, unusual hours, or seasons of sacrifice? Can both futures make room for each other's legitimate calling? It is easy to say, I support your dream, when the dream is still a sentence. What happens when it becomes a schedule? Third, money and stewardship. Discuss debt, spending, saving, generosity, risk, and work habits. Who makes decisions? How will major choices be discussed? What happens when an investment fails or income changes? Money does not merely reveal what you possess, it reveals what you value. If financial truth cannot survive courtship, financial pressure will not become easier after marriage. Fourth, family history and expectations. Every person arrives with inherited examples of authority, affection, conflict, loyalty, and responsibility. What obligations exist toward parents or relatives? What boundaries are needed? Which family patterns should continue and which must end? Background influences destiny, but it does not have to dictate it. What remains unexamined, however, is often repeated. Fifth, conflict and repair. How does each person handle anger, silence, corrección, counsel? Can they apologize without adding an excuse? Can they forgive without weaponizing the past? When failure repeats, do they seek help and change the pattern, or merely repeat the apology? Sixth, lifelong service. This is the deepest conversation. Is marriage understood as an arrangement for getting needs met, or as a commitment to protect another person's welfare for life? Ask what service looks like during sickness, financial strain, disappointment, aging, and seasons when affection feels less intense. Very important, do not conduct this investigation entirely inside a private romantic bubble. Allow trusted, mature people to observe the relationship. Not to control your choice, the decision remains yours. But wise community may notice what intensity has trained you to excuse. Somebody says nobody understands us, be careful. Sometimes that means the relationship is unique. Sometimes it means everybody can see the smoke except the 2 people dancing inside the house. Courtship can produce 3 responsible outcomes. You may advance with clarity because evidence supports commitment. You may pause because growth, counsel, or missing information is still required. Or you may end the courtship because the directions, values, or responsibilities do not fit. Ending an incompatible relationship does not require declaring someone worthless. A good person can still be the wrong partner for your assignment. Compatibility is not a verdict on human value. Write this down. A responsible decision must be informed, voluntary, and willing to live with its consequences. That is how courtship converts chemistry into clarity. After investigation comes the final question, not whether 2 people can produce a beautiful wedding, but whether they are prepared to become covenant partners when pressure arrives. Now return to the question we asked at the beginning. When this person influences my decisions, habits, and priorities, where does my life go? The right relationship does more than intensify emotion. Its tested influence moves both people toward truth, purpose, maturity, and responsible service. You are not merely happier when they enter the room. You are becoming more disciplined, more honest, more accountable, and more faithful to what you were created to do. Everybody say, evidence before covenant. Look at the progression. Acquaintance establishes respect. Casual friendship discovers interests, strengths, and dreams. Close friendship tests values, service, and trust. Intentional courtship studies history, responsibility, and consequences. Then covenant makes a lifelong commitment based on sufficient knowledge, not perfect knowledge, but sufficient knowledge. So how do you recognize covenant readiness? Listen carefully. First, We can move in compatible directions without demanding that one person abandon their legitimate purpose. Second, we can tell each other the truth without using honesty as a weapon or vulnerability as ammunition. Third, we protect each other's convictions. We do not exploit affection to negotiate against the principles that should preserve our future. Fourth, we serve one another without creating helplessness. Our support produces strength, responsibility, and growth. Fifth, we can repair conflict. We acknowledge harm, accept responsibility, change behavior, seek counsel when necessary, and refuse to turn every disagreement into a contest for control. Sixth, we understand the foreseeable cost of a shared future, and we are willing to accept it. Not merely the wedding, the work, not merely the photographs, the responsibility, not merely the celebration, the covenant. Readiness does not mean you can predict every crisis. Nobody knows every event waiting in the future. It does not mean either person has no weakness. It means you know enough of the real person. You have observed consistent character, and both of you are prepared to face consequences without treating each other as disposable. Picture two people standing back to back. Each one is guarding the side the other cannot easily see. Pressure approaches, but they do not turn around and make each other the enemy. They ask, what is attacking our unity? What problem are we facing? How do we protect one another while solving it? Immature couples stand face to face and fight each other while the real problem walks freely through the house. Mature partners stand together against the problem. Pressure after marriage should deepen cooperation. But understand this, pressure cannot manufacture character that preparation never developed. Pressure reveals the materials already present. If friendship has practiced honesty, responsibility, service, and shared purpose, pressure can strengthen the partnership. If those qualities are missing, pressure exposes the absence. So take the final examination. Do not answer for the person beside you. Answer for yourself. Am I whole enough to share rather than consume? Does this person's influence strengthen my direction? Can we disagree without destroying dignity? Have we disclosed the histories that can affect our future? Have ordinary responsibilities confirmed our impressive words? Are we prepared to serve when service becomes inconvenient? If you are unmarried, slow the relationship to the speed of truth. Do not let loneliness, pressure, or excitement rush you past evidence. If you are in courtship, investigate what remains unresolved. A postponed ceremony is less costly than a lifetime built on information you were afraid to request. If you are married, do not conclude that friendship is now unnecessary. Rebuild it. Become curious again. Ask about dreams again. Serve without being asked. Tell the truth with kindness. Learn the person who has continued changing beside you. Write this down one final time. Attraction may open the door, but tested friendship reveals whether two lives are ready to carry a covenant. Do not ask romance to prove what only tested friendship can reveal.